European leaders have attended a summit in Copenhagen focusing on bolstering their joint defenses against Russia, as well as bolstering their support for Ukraine. It comes amid growing fears that Russia is widening its hybrid war. Leaders of nations with close ties to the Kremlin were also included in the talks.
Red carpet and a sunny Danish welcome for European countries both inside and outside of the EU. Nearly 50 leaders gathering here in Copenhagen for the European Political Community Summit. One of them, Moldova, has itself just returned a pro-EU result in parliamentary elections, in spite of foreign interference from Russia.
What happened in Moldova over the last few months, and especially over the last few weeks before the elections, could happen in any country, European country. So we all need to work hard. We need to work together to fight the illicit funding. We need to work together to strengthen the cyber security. And we need to work together to fight disinformation.
Like her, many of the presidents and prime ministers attending this summit lead countries which are trying to become members of the European Union. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is another, and his country is considered crucial for one of the other important discussions here: how to create a deterrent against drone incursions in EU airspace, including in Denmark last week.
Ukraine has relevant experience in it because of the war, maybe the biggest one. Because of this, the biggest one in the world, and of course we will support Denmark because they are our friends.
Host, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, welcomed the lessons Europe is learning from supporting Ukraine.
Everything we do in Ukraine is defending ourselves in the rest of Europe. So we are doing a lot, but we have to speed up and we have to scale up.
Not everyone here is so supportive of Ukraine, however. EU leaders have also been holding closed-door meetings with pro-Russia countries like Serbia, Azerbaijan and Georgia, an attempt to straddle the divides in Europe.
All right, our correspondent Jack Parrock, he is following events for us in the sunflower city of Copenhagen. So Jack, did this summit, did it achieve what it set out to do?
Well, I think the purpose of this summit is to get these leaders from outside the European Union FaceTime with their EU counterparts. So to that end, yes, broadly, they met. There was some sort of good moments between the Albanian Prime Minister, for instance, and the Azerbaijani leader. There was a bit of a joke between them on Trump's comments, for instance, that he had got a peace deal between the two countries. They weren't fighting. But there was also an opportunity for the Ukrainian President, Zelensky, to speak to this summit. It's a slightly strange meeting. The leaders sort of get together in different versions and formats when they speak to one another. Did it achieve anything? We don't really know, but they definitely got the FaceTime that they were hoping for.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin, he has warned against Europe provoking Moscow. He did that during a speech that he delivered in Sochi. What prompted that?
Yeah, he's been accusing EU leaders of hysteria, saying that Russia has no intention of attacking European Union countries or NATO and sort of putting the blame back on the NATO member countries. There is a lot of concern, and we've seen it here. Yesterday was an EU summit as well that took place at the Danish Parliament, and EU leaders are really concerned. They've seen drone incursions into European airspace, especially in the eastern member states over the last few weeks. We heard the French President Emmanuel Macron really ramping up the sort of concern that he was expressing about Russia's actions, saying that it amounts essentially to a conflict, and that's why the Europeans have been trying to get together. And this is also part of why they have this kind of summit, this European political summit, to gauge how those countries that are still much more pro-Russia, the Serbias, the Azerbaijans, the Georgias, where they stand as this progression to support Ukraine and also to protect European interests continues.
I understand the German Chancellor has said that we can expect a decision on using Russia's frozen assets to fund Ukraine. Do we know when? What more can you tell us?
Yeah, this has been one of the big discussions over the last couple of days. And we heard the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz. He says that another summit that's going to take place in Brussels, that we can expect a decision on that issue. Now, this is the suggestion that financial assets to the tune of somewhere between 150 and 200 billion euros that are being held mainly in Belgium, that they could be released to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia, so sort of using the Russian money that's still remaining in the EU. It's extremely complicated. A potential peace deal could make that difficult. The Belgian Prime Minister, a lot of that money is actually held in a financial organisation called Euroclear in Belgium. They seem to be able to be becoming slightly more accepting of the idea. The Germans were pretty reluctant to do it. We now know that Chancellor Merz says it could be possible as soon as as early as the end of this month. We don't know how possible it actually is. That will be now the focus for the leaders when they get together at the end of the month.
Jack, I want to ask you, too, about one of the big topics going into this summit in Copenhagen, and that was preventing these drone incursions into European airspace. Any progress to report?
Yeah, I mean, they did manage to get a sort of broad political agreement on that. That was the big concern overshadowing these 2 days. We're now wrapped up. These 2 days of summits. That Denmark as well saw its main airport in Copenhagen closed down last week. And will they be able to put something together? It looks like they've got technical agreement. Very interestingly, the Dutch Prime Minister has sort of come out and said, we're going to take the lead on this. We're going to have some meetings at technical level mid-October. So it does look like that's possible. But there are questions about how feasible it will be to protect 3,000 kilometres of the EU's external borders and to get an agreement on a sort of common EU defence plan quickly when these incursions are starting to happen now. But broadly, positive notes on that. And the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainians have got a lot of experience in dealing with drone incursions due to the last few years of war. He said he'll do everything he can to help the Europeans.
All right, our correspondent Jack Parrock with the latest from Copenhagen. Jack, thank you.
For more, let's turn to Alain Berset, the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, regarded as the leading human rights body of Europe. The Council includes 46 member states. He joins me from Copenhagen. Mr. Secretary General, welcome to DW. A key focus of the summit has been hybrid warfare. Have the past week's incidents brought the war in Ukraine closer to home?
You know, I think we are facing a quite difficult situation right now, but at the same time, I mean, we feel a strong unity in Europe. We feel a strong, decided unity to fight, not only to support Ukraine, but also to fight for our values. We just need now to have, the consistency to continue and to find the right way to address this issue.
Mm-hmm. Are these hybrid tactics proving more destabilizing than conventional military threats?
You know, I mean, these hybrid threats now are well known. We know what it means. What we need to do is one side to have an answer on the very short term for this, but also never to forget the long term. I mean, we need to see that rearming Europe is necessary now, but we need also to do this in the context of our values. I mean, we need strong institutions. We need to also avoid all the destabilization that we have, for example, for electoral processes. We see this recently in Romania, also tentatives in Moldova, and we need to do this at the same time. But I think we are less naive, probably, that it was the case 5 or 10 years ago, and more ready to answer to those issues.
Exactly. You say the community now knows the threat, but it's struggling in a way to find an adequate response, to find a deterrent. What you've seen these past weeks, and maybe also there in Copenhagen these past 2 days, does it show you how serious Europe is about providing for its own defense, or does it maybe show how far Europe still needs to go?
I mean, we need, these two last days, it was just the next step in a quite situation that is really worrying for all of us, since many years now. And also what happened in Denmark, hybrid threats, you mentioned this, the drones, you mentioned this. It is really, creating a situation that we need to address. I mean, once again, I felt today here in Copenhagen a strong unity of the European family. It is not meaning that we all have exactly the same position on the different elements, but it is a strong unity. We need to think first for Europe. We need to defend first Europe and the values, and it is going through the support that we can offer to Ukraine. I mean, a strong support from the states on the military side, a strong support from the Council of Europe for all the question about accountability with the court, register of damage, special tribunal, and to take all this at the same time.
Many in Copenhagen are calling for frozen Russian assets to be used to fight Russian aggression, to be used to provide support for Ukraine. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think, it is all about accountability. I mean, I was speaking before about the register of damage. It was a creation of the Council of Europe in Reykjavik 2 years ago. It's working well. We have more than 60,000 claims registered or damages registered in the register and next claims commission. But it's clear at the same time, it will never be enough if we are not able to finance also, reparation and reconstruction. The frozen asset that you are mentioning is part of the discussion. We are witnessing right now a quite complicated discussion, I would say, on this, because all this must also in any way happen in an international legal framework. That's not easy, and I also noted that we have at the moment really, not all countries at the same level of readiness to act. We need to work more on this and to see what is possible to do. Not everything, but we can continue and to work on this. In any case, the whole discussion about funding and financing the reparation will be key for the next few years.
Would you mind sharing with us what the main sticking points are when it comes to these frozen assets? Is it that leaders gathered there might not be willing to share the risks such a move brings with it?
I think it is also part of the whole discussion, clearly, and we have different situations for different countries. It always depends on the situation of the legal issues in the country, relations with other countries, also, how strong each country is concerned by the frozen asset and what it would mean also, acting in this direction and working in this direction, knowing that international law must always prevail. It's not possible for all of us to be strongly advocating for the rule of law and not respecting it at this moment, but it must be also possible at the same time to be creative and to find the right way to act. There is need for more collaboration and work on this. It is happening, and I'm confident that it will be possible, to make positive steps in the next times.
You talk a lot about accountability. How else would the Council of Europe like to see Russia being held responsible for its aggressions?
I mean, it is exactly the role of the Council of Europe. We have with the European Convention on Human Rights and European Court of Human Rights, we have the court addressing every day, as we speak now, cases of violations of human rights in the context of the war in Ukraine. That's the first pillar. The second pillar, it is about the register of damage, registering all possible kind of damages in the context of the war, and also envisaging then with a claims commission, reparation and reconstruction. And the third pillar is about the special tribunal addressing the crime of aggression. I had the occasion for the Council of Europe with President Zelensky to sign in Strasbourg last June an agreement for the establishment of such a tribunal, but always we need the support of states, member states doing this, and we are developing those steps. It is important to do this with a high level of quality, but at the same time not to wait. I mean, to go rapidly, and we are ready to act really rapidly.
Mm-hmm. You are in Copenhagen, where defense is front and center. A lot of talk about military equipment and funding, but you have said in the past that democratic security is the first line of defense against the likes of Russia. Tell us what you mean by that and how it can be guaranteed in times like these.
It is, I mean, what are we witnessing right now? We are witnessing a continent investing a lot in military defense, weapons, in armies. I mean, we speak about, hundreds of billions of euros invested in defense and weapons. And at the same time, we are witnessing what in all our countries, a kind of backsliding democracy. I mean, with, the social media, AI, with deep fake, disinformation, hatred speech. This is quite difficult. What would happen in 10 years if we have highly militarized countries on one time, on one side, and on the other side, elections where it's not more possible to see what will happen because there is disinformation and manipulation everywhere. We need to take this together. What means democratic security? It means to have strong institutions, strong support for democracy, and if we have a strong system for defense, to have at the same time a strong support for democratic security, because it is about our values. It is about our values, about who we are in Europe, and I was strongly advocating today here to take this together. I did this with Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of the NATO. I did this with all counterparts of people that I met today. It was also the point that I brought in the roundtable. It's really important to see the security of Europe as a comprehensive security about democratic security.
Alain Berset, the Secretary General of the Council of Europe. Mr. Secretary General, thank you so much for your time today.
I thank you very much.